My name is Princess Alia Bent Rashid, and I was 19 years old when this happened. The date was March 3rd, 2018, a day that began like any other but ended as the beginning of the hardest season of my life. On that day, a Bible I had kept hidden for months was found in my room, and I was told I must destroy it. My refusal brought consequences that changed the way I saw myself, my home, and my future. Before that day, my life was shaped by who I was in society. I grew up inside the royal compound, where everything was organized, controlled, and watched. My father was a respected figure who handled important political matters, and my mother focused on cultural duties and strict traditions. People expected perfection from all of us, especially from me, because I was the oldest daughter. Everything I did, how I walked, smiled, spoke, even how I breathed sometimes felt like it was being judged. My education was carefully planned from childhood. I studied history, languages, politics, leadership, and religious studies. Teachers often said I learned quickly and understood difficult topics with ease. But even with all the knowledge I gained, I always felt a quiet emptiness. I spent many days feeling like there was something more I needed to understand, something deeper than rules and lessons. My life changed the year I met a foreign worker in the palace. She was kind and gentle, and during one conversation, she shared the story of her own struggles. She told me that she found strength in a small Bible she carried during her hard times. She revealed to me that reading it helped her feel peace when she had no one to talk to. There was something in her voice, something honest and warm that made me want to know more. She later showed me the book, and I felt something inside me open. I asked if I could keep it, and she trusted me enough to allow it. From then on, I read the Bible in secret. I kept it in a wooden box under my bed. It felt like holding a gentle light in a dark place. Every piece I read gave me calmness and hope, something I had never felt before. It became my quiet guide, something precious that I protected with all my heart. Everything collapsed on that morning in March. A palace guard entered my room without warning and began checking through my belongings. When he opened the wooden box and saw the Bible, his whole face changed. He told me that having it was a serious matter and that I should prepare for consequences. In a very short time, word reached the council in the palace. I was called forward, and the moment I entered the hall, I knew nothing would be the same again. The leaders told me that the only way to prove my loyalty was to burn the Bible. They said that refusing would bring shame to my family and could lead to punishments that I might not escape from easily. My heart beat so fast that I felt dizzy. I looked around the room and saw disappointment, anger, and fear in the faces staring back at me, but something in me would not break. I could not destroy the one thing that had given me peace. So I refused, quietly, with shaking hands, but firmly. That is when the persecution began. I was taken away from my comfortable room and placed in a small, cold space in another part of the palace. The room had nothing but a thin mat and a dim light. For the first time in my life, I felt what it meant to be completely alone. My siblings were not allowed to see me. My mother visited once, and tears filled her eyes as she told me she could not change the decision made by the council. My father said that I had brought trouble into the family and that he did not know how to protect me anymore. The emotional pain was heavy. Each hour felt longer than the one before. I was not harmed physically, but the silence, the coldness, and the way everyone looked at me as if I had become a stranger created a deep sadness inside me. I cried many nights, wondering if I had made the wrong choice. But every time doubt tried to take over, something inside my heart reminded me of the peace I had felt while reading the Bible. That was enough to keep me standing, even when everything around me tried to break me. And that moment, my quiet refusal, the shock that followed, and the painful loneliness that came after, was only the beginning of the storm that awaited me. After I refused to burn the Bible, things moved fast. too fast for my mind to understand. I was still 19, still scared, still trying to be brave, when I was taken before the palace council again. The room felt colder this time. Everyone watched me with a kind of silence that made my stomach feel tight. When they spoke, their voices were low but full of disappointment. One member told me that my refusal had created a serious problem. Another revealed to me that my actions were seen as rebellion against the rules. A third showed me some papers, explaining that punishment had to follow because my decision had embarrassed the family. In that moment, my hands felt weak. My legs almost failed me. I could not speak. I stood there, trying not to cry, trying not to tremble. They told me that I was to be removed from the palace and taken to an isolated holding area until further notice. They did not say how long. They did not say if I would ever return. They only said that it was to correct me. The guards came closer. They did not hurt me, but the way they surrounded me made fear grow inside my chest. One of them told me that I should prepare myself because my life was about to become different. Another guard revealed to me that the decision had been approved by higher authorities and that nothing could be changed. Hearing that made my heart drop like a stone. As they walked me out of the room, I looked back at my parents. My mother's eyes were filled with tears. My father looked away, as if he could not bear to meet my gaze. For the first time, I felt completely alone, even though they were right there. The walk to the holding area felt long. The hallways of the palace, which once felt warm and familiar, now felt cold and unfriendly. Every step echoed like a warning. When we reached the new room, the guards opened the door, and I stepped inside. It was small, with plain walls and no windows. The only furniture was a thin mattress placed on the floor. When the door closed behind me, the sound felt like the world shutting me out. I sat on the mattress, hugging my knees. The silence in that room was heavy. It pressed against my chest and made it hard to breathe. I kept thinking about what would happen to me next. Would I ever see my family again? Would things get worse? My thoughts circled around and around until I felt tears sliding down my face. I didn't cry loudly. The tears just came on their own, soft and quiet. Hours passed, maybe even days. Time became strange. Sometimes a guard would bring food. He never smiled, never greeted me, but once he told me that many people in the palace believed I had made a terrible mistake. Another day, a different guard revealed to me that if I had simply obeyed, none of this would have happened. Their words felt sharp, but I stayed silent. The hardest part was the emotional pain, the loneliness, the confusion, the way every minute felt like a test. I kept remembering the comfort I once felt when reading the Bible, and that helped me pull through each day. That memory was the only warm thing I carried in that cold room. One night, everything inside me felt heavy. I sat in the dark, listening to the quiet sound of my own breathing. I realized that the punishment I was facing wasn't just about the Bible. It was about choosing what felt true inside my heart, even when the world around me was shaking. And that is when I understood something important. The sentence they gave me was not only about isolation, it was about trying to change my heart, trying to break my belief, trying to make me choose fear instead of faith. But even in that harsh place, something deep inside me refused to break. This was only the beginning of the pressure placed on me, pressure that pushed me to the edge emotionally, moments that tested the deepest parts of my spirit. But I held on, because something told me that the storm was not the end of my story. Days passed in that small room, and each day felt like someone was slowly taking pieces of my strength away. I slept on the thin mattress, I woke up to silence, and I spent long hours staring at the walls. Sometimes I paced the room because the stillness felt too heavy. Other times, I sat in a corner and hugged my knees, trying to keep myself from falling apart inside. One of the guards visited me often. He usually placed food on the floor and left without saying anything. But one evening, he stopped for a moment. He told me that the council had met again and my situation was becoming more serious. He revealed to me that some believed I needed an even harsher punishment to make me change my mind. Hearing that made my stomach twist with fear. I watched the door close, and all I could think about was how the world outside that room was deciding my fate without me. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining different things that could happen to me. My mind felt like a storm of fear. I had no one to talk to, no one to comfort me, no one to tell me what to expect. The air in the room felt tight, almost like it was pressing against my skin. I wrapped my arms around myself and tried not to cry, but the tears still came, slow and warm. The next morning, something changed. I woke up early, before the guards arrived. The room was quiet, but it didn't feel empty the way it usually did. It felt different, like the air had become warm around me. I sat up slowly, confused. My heartbeat picked up because I didn't understand what was happening. As I sat there, I felt a strange peace settle over me. It didn't make sense. I had been scared for days. I had felt alone, forgotten, and pushed aside. But suddenly, there was calmness filling the room, like someone invisible had stepped close to me and was letting me know I was not alone. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't a sound. It was more like a presence, gentle, safe, strong. I remember touching my chest because my heart felt lighter, almost as if something had lifted the fear away for a moment. I didn't know how to explain it. I just knew I felt seen, like someone understood my pain even though I had spoken to no one. For the first time since my punishment began, I felt hope. Later that day, something even stranger happened. A guard came to check on me. He had always been serious and distant, but when he looked at me this time, his expression changed. He told me that he felt something strange when he entered the room, like a warmth he could not explain. He revealed to me that this was unusual and that he didn't understand why he felt it. Then he stared at me for a moment longer before leaving. That night, the peace returned, even stronger than before. I remember sitting on the mattress with my hands on my lap, tears falling, not from fear this time, but from relief. I felt protected in a way that did not make sense. I felt like someone powerful was standing between me and the danger that had been moving toward me. The next morning, everything changed again. 2 council members arrived at my door. Their faces were serious, but not angry. They told me that something unexpected had happened overnight. They revealed to me that several guards reported unusual feelings of calmness near my room. One guard even told them he felt a sense of protection around me. The council members came to re-evaluate my case. I didn't argue. I didn't speak. I just listened with a quiet heart. After a long discussion, they informed me that my punishment would be changed. I was no longer to be kept in isolation. They said they needed time to reconsider everything about my situation. Then they walked away, leaving me standing in the hallway, shocked and confused, but free from the small room at last. As I followed a guard back to a different part of the palace, I realized something deep inside me. The intervention I felt in that lonely room had changed the direction of my story. I still didn't know what would happen next. I still didn't know how far the persecution would go. But I knew I had not been alone, not even for a moment. Something greater had stepped into my darkness and turned the storm. After I was moved from the small room, I felt like I had stepped into another world. My legs were weak from days of sitting alone. My eyes hurt from crying. My heart felt tired, almost like a bird that had forgotten how to fly. I walked slowly behind the guard, trying to understand what was happening. I didn't know if I was safe. I didn't know if things would become worse later. I only knew there had been a change, one I didn't fully understand. I was taken to a quiet section of the palace. It wasn't as cold or empty as the place I had been kept before. The room they placed me in had a window. For the first time in many days, I saw sunlight again. When the warm light touched my face, I felt tears rising. I stood there for a long moment, letting the light fall on my skin. It felt like a small piece of freedom. But even though the room was better, the pressure around my life did not disappear. My family didn't visit. The council still watched me closely. Some guards looked at me with confusion, others with suspicion. One guard told me that people still believed I needed to change. Another revealed to me that the council was waiting to see if I would break under the emotional pressure. These words made my heart tighten again. Days passed slowly. Every morning I woke up wondering if that would be the day something terrible would happen. Every night I slept with fear sitting inside my chest. But even in the middle of all that uncertainty, I kept feeling that same strange warmth, the same peaceful presence I had felt in the small room. It always came when my fear was highest. It always calmed me when I started to panic. One night, something happened that I will never forget. I woke up suddenly, without knowing why. The room was quiet, the moonlight shining softly on the floor, but I felt something in the air, something gentle, strong, and full of comfort. I sat up slowly, placing my hand over my heart because I felt a peace so deep that it made my whole body relax. I knew I was not alone. I couldn't see anyone, but I could feel the presence so clearly it made me cry softly. It felt like someone was standing beside me, not with anger, not with judgment, but with love and protection. I didn't hear a voice, but something in my heart felt like it was being spoken to. It felt like I was being told that everything would change soon, that I was safe, that the darkness was ending. The next morning I found out the council had made their final decision. 2 members came to my room. Their faces were serious, but something in their expressions was different, softer, almost uncertain. They told me the situation had gone beyond their control. They revealed to me that my case had brought tension and confusion among many people. Some guards reported unusual peace around me. Some workers claimed they sensed something powerful protecting me. They said the decision was no longer theirs to keep. They were releasing me. When they said it, my legs almost gave out. I gripped the edge of the table because I felt dizzy from shock. The door was opened, and for the first time since the Bible was found, I walked outside freely. The sky looked brighter than I remembered. The air felt cleaner. Every step felt like a miracle. I was taken far from the palace to live quietly, away from the attention, away from the danger. Life was not the same. I could not return to my old world, but I carried a deeper strength inside me. I survived something that tried to break me, and now I carried a testimony stronger than fear. Even now, when I look back, I still feel the emotional weight, the lonely nights, the cold room, the painful silence, the pressure to give up my belief. But I also remember the peace that came in my darkest moment, the intervention that no one could explain, the protection that confused the guards and softened the council. I survived because something greater than me stepped in. And that is why I share my story, not to bring fear, but to show that even in persecution, even in danger, even in the hardest moments, light still finds a way to break through. I want to encourage every Christian who is reading this. Please pray for people around the world who face pressure and pain because of their faith. Pray for strength, for courage, and for protection. some people are silently suffering, just as I did. Your prayers matter. And if you are reading this and you want to turn away from your sins, or you feel far from God, you can say this simple prayer in your heart. God, I come to you. I want to change. I ask you to forgive me and help me to walk in the right path. Thank you for loving me. Amen. You are not alone. Your story matters, and your life can also shine with hope, just like mine did.